Thank you. As I was getting ready to come here today, I spent a bit of time thinking about the very first time that I was ever up on a stage. It was for a kindergarten play, and my line was, "I is for ice cream." And I wouldn't be exaggerating if I told you that I'd rehearsed those 5 words at least 100 times in front of the mirror. When the big day came, I was so nervous while I was waiting for my turn that I had grabbed the hem of my skirt and I was clutching it up against my belly. I didn't realize that I was flashing the entire audience. So I'm keeping my hands up today to make sure history doesn't repeat itself. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about my life, and I would like to begin by sharing a poem that I wrote to myself about 5 years ago. Like I is for ice cream, it's something that I've recited in the mirror hundreds, if not thousands of times. To the little girl inside of me, whose voice was stripped away, at 3 years old, by a tormented soul on that ever life-changing day. And I know he made you promise that the secret was safe with you. And so you played it just right and you tucked it all deep inside and no one had a clue. Well, I am here to tell you that there is power in your word. So gather up all your might because it's about time that the truth is finally heard. The truth is that that poem was written about sexual abuse. And the truth is that, like me, an estimated 500,000 of the babies that are born in the United States alone this year, they'll be sexually abused before they turn 18. That's 500,000 of our babies that will be sexually violated while they're still children. If you think about your child or grandchild's kindergarten classroom, ask yourself which of those kids are part of the statistic. So approximately 90% of victims are abused by somebody they know. And interestingly enough, it's also 90% of victims who never report their crime. So that means that 90% of child molesters are free to continue to walk our streets and abuse more children. So when I heard these statistics, I was floored, mostly because growing up, I thought I was the only person this had ever happened to. Well, years later, Oprah mentioned it on a show, so then it was just she and I. But sexual abuse is taboo. So people aren't supposed to do it, but it also means that people aren't supposed to talk about it. However, when I realized that there's 39 million survivors of childhood sexual abuse in our country, it becomes really clear to me that the taboo isn't stopping it from happening. So I am no longer going to allow it to keep me silent. By the time I was 7 years old, 7 different people had sexually abused me. 3 of them had raped me. And the first time I was raped, I was only 3. Each of them was somebody who was known and trusted by the family, and each of them had their own way of ensuring that I would stay silent, their own way of stealing my voice. And the one that stands out the most to me is the teenage boy who, after raping me, told me that I should never tell anybody what had happened because if my parents ever found out, they wouldn't love me anymore. They would disown me, and I would be kicked out on the streets. Wow, I was officially unlovable, and I was so ashamed. By the time I was 8 years old, I was so overwhelmed with these complex emotions that I didn't understand. I had no clue how to process them. That one day I found myself crouched down in front of an electrical outlet with a pair of scissors in hand. I just want to die. I can't do it. Life is too hard. Coming, Mom. I'll be right there. And I walked out, blaming allergies for my watery eyes and my red face, and I pretended like nothing was wrong. And I kept up the act pretty successfully until I was about 15 or 16. And that's when a dear friend of mine raped me. And it wasn't physical force that he used to restrain me. It was blackmail. He used threats to immobilize me so that he could do what he wanted to do. And when all was said and done, he made it very clear what would happen to me if I ever told anybody. So once again, I had no voice. And this time it wasn't just shame that I felt. It was anger, and it wasn't even just anger, it was rage! But I couldn't express the rage, because then people would ask questions. What was I so upset about? I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't tell them. So I internalized the rage, and I began to self-destruct. I started drinking more, and if I was at a party and someone was passing around drugs, I would try them. I was smoking cigarettes, skipping class, sleeping around. I just didn't care. And then it all caught up with me, and one day I had a total and complete breakdown. And I did not stop crying for days. And finally I told my mom I was so depressed, and she got me help. I was put on antidepressants, and I was able to get my life back together enough to be able to graduate high school while I was still 16. And then I was out on my own, experiencing freedom and independence, and holy shit, panic attacks that would come from out of nowhere and just knock me down. And it would take me days just to get back up on my feet again. And then I started having nightmares. And I would wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat with my heart pounding out of my chest, gasping for air. And there was no falling back to sleep after the nightmares. So my doctors put me on anti-anxiety medication, and they gave me some sedatives so that I could sleep through the night. And those sedatives, I have to tell you, they gave me some of the craziest dreams. In fact, one night, while I was visiting a friend of the family in Long Island, I took my meds, I went to bed, and I had the most vivid and realistic dream of my entire life. I had a dream that I was on a boat, far out in the ocean. And I could feel the cool breeze blowing through my hair. I was basking in the warmth of the sun. And out of the corner of my eye, I spotted this really good-looking captain of the ship. And he slowly made his way over, brushed my hair to the side, and gently began to kiss my neck. And the dream slowly escalated. And as it peaked, my eyes shot open. And it took me a minute to realize that I'd been dreaming about a boat because I was sleeping on a waterbed. And that cool breeze, that was the oscillating fan across the room. And then I realized that my dreamboat captain was actually a 76-year-old man who had played a significantly positive role in my childhood. He knew I was going to be knocked out, so he snuck into my room and he raped me. This event was the straw that broke the camel's back. And less than a week later, I found myself standing on a bridge outside of Philadelphia, ready to jump. If there is a God, please just let me die instantly when I hit the water. Whew. And as I gathered the courage to jump, a car honked as it drove past me on the bridge. And as I turned to look, I saw the light. And first it was red, and then it was blue, and then it was red, and then it was blue. There was an emergency vehicle headed my direction, and I froze. And it wasn't until those lights pulled up behind my little Jetta on the bridge that I could breathe again. 2 Pennsylvania highway patrolmen stepped out and very cautiously approached. "Excuse me, ma'am, are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay." "Do you need help?" "Yes, I need help." So I was coaxed back to the inside of the bridge, where I was handcuffed and loaded into the back of a police van. And one of the officers told me that evening that I had my very own superhero. Someone had seen me on the bridge and called 911 to get me help. The little girl inside of me likes to think it was Wonder Woman. So 12 years, a marriage, 2 handsome boys, and a divorce later, I found myself in the middle of a major health crisis. And I knew that something had to change rapidly and drastically, or else I was going to be dead soon. And I spent some time thinking about all of the things I'd been through in life. All of the times I'd been sexually abused, the times I had been raped, the times I had tried to take my own life only to wake up in the morning and realize I can't get off this planet. And I had to ask myself if it had all happened so that I could just fade away and die at 33? No. No. No, that was not going to be the ending of my story. So then, why had it happened? Why did I have to go through all of that? It took me a little bit of time. But then one Thursday afternoon, while I was meditating on the red couch of my basement in Flagstaff, Arizona, it hit me. And suddenly, it all made sense. I took on this mountain of sexual abuse to show others that mountains can be moved. I had to go through hell to find my way out, to find my way to the other side, to healing. And I needed to create a bridge so that I could help other people find their way too. That day on the red couch, I stopped looking at myself as a victim. And I realized that I'm a survivor. I stopped taking my life for granted, and I started to fight for it. And in the process, I had to learn how to forgive. But you know what? I found peace like I have never known before. And today I am living a life that I love with a man that I adore, who cherishes me in return, and together we're raising 4 amazing kids. And it all started that day on the red couch, because that's the day I went from wounded to warrior. And now I am on a mission to end the silence that childhood sexual abuse thrives on. And I need all of your help. I need each and every single one of you to start talking about sexual abuse. It's uncomfortable, trust me, I know. But talk to your loved ones and talk to your friends. Most importantly, talk to your children. Start younger than you think you need to, because by the time I said I is for ice cream, I already had 2 years of sexual abuse under my belt. So teach them very clearly what the boundaries are, and that it's not okay for anybody to cross those lines. Tell them that it's important to come and tell you if anyone tries. And let them know that you're going to love them no matter what. Teach them how to respect these boundaries on others so that they don't grow up to rape or abuse somebody else in the future. Your voice might be what it takes to prevent something like this from happening. And maybe you're already too late, or forbid it happens anyways. Keep talking about it. Your voice might be what it takes for another survivor to find their own. And it's not until they find their voice that they too can begin the journey of going from wounded to warrior. Thank you.